Hello and welcome to the Homegrown Native Plants webinar series. Here we are, episode number 4, Dividing Seedlings. We are here at, introduce myself. My name is Eleanor Schumacher. I am the state coordinator for Project Wingspan Illinois, a volunteer-based native wildflower seed collection program sponsored by Pollinator Partnership. Today we are at Greenscape Gardens in St. Louis, and we'll have Sue and Emily tell you a little bit about that.
Hello, I'm Sue Leahy. I'm the Native Plants Manager here at Greenscape Gardens. Greenscape Gardens is a full-service garden center, meaning we sell everything from annuals to perennials to natives to trees and shrubs. We actually have the largest selection of natives in St. Louis.
And I'm Emily, so I'm just now starting my third year here at Greenscape Gardens, and I am the Natives Department lead. So I help out with a lot of the day-to-day goings on here, a lot of the watering, some of the potting up of the plants that we get in. That sort of thing.
In a little bit, I'll let you see more of this greenhouse that we're standing in. There's a lot of plants. This is sort of the back room, backstage at Greenscape Garden. So today we are talking about dividing seedlings. This is a very important concept. Let me back up for a second. The Homegrown Native Plants webinar series is here to demonstrate how easy it is to grow native plants on your own. We want to encourage gardeners to incorporate more native plants in their landscapes. They're beautiful. They're not hard to grow at all, and they're really good for wildlife. We also want to highlight our partners in this series to show what resources are available for gardeners, naturalists, and conservationists. So let me tell you about the coming events we have remaining for this webinar series. We have Monday, June 3rd, planning a pollinator garden. Pollinator Week, Monday, June 17th, we will be planting that pollinator garden. And then number 7, Monday, September 9th. We'll let that bobcat go by. Monday, September 9th, finding homes for extra plants, a problem we all have. And we'll talk about growing season prescribed burns as well. And finally, we'll end September 30th, Monday, planting after a burn and lining up seeds for next year. So today's topic, dividing native seedlings. When sowing seeds in containers and flats, sometimes we conserve space and time by sprinkling seeds rather than planting them one by one, spaced apart from each other. Also, sometimes with hand-collected seeds, you don't know the viability of this seed, how many of them are going to germinate. So sometimes we add more seeds than is really room for in a cell. And then you have a surplus of seedlings, which we will demonstrate for you in a moment. Sometimes you have seedlings that are very close together. These plants will grow best when they don't have to compete with other plants for space. So that's why we separate them very carefully. It's a very busy day here. Mother's Day is coming. I would love to see this place on Saturday.
Let's see if you can find a park.
If you can find a parking space. Yes. Okay. So yes, when we separate them, we have to be very careful with the roots. Some plants are hardier than others. And that's where Sue has a lot of experience and can talk a little more about which plants can handle a little bit of heavy handling, a little rough handling. For example, I've got some whorled milkweed I'm going to bring out, and I'll show you a little rough handling with those seedlings that are too close together. But I also grew some spring ephemerals this year, and those are very gentle. They hardly can stand any handling at all. Like if you ever tried to dig up a spring ephemeral, well, some of them are hardier than others. But wild hydrangea, for example, growing some from seed right now, those seedlings are very, very fragile and very difficult to divide. So it just depends what species you have. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Sue, and she's going to give you her thoughts on dividing seedlings.
Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been gardening with natives for over 15 years, so I have a little bit of hands-on experience. Back when I started with native plants, it was very hard to find native plants, and that has really changed in the last few years. They're much more available than they were when I started. So I have tried to propagate a number of different things, some with more success than others. Cardinal flower is usually very easy, and I usually sow a whole bunch in a flat, and then I divide them with no problem. But for some reason, I lost my crop this year, and I do not know why. I propagated some poke milkweed, which came up, and then it all died. And I think because I still had it under lights, and that's a shade plant, I should have taken it out from under the lights. But live and learn. We do several things here at Greenscape. We get commercially propagated plugs 2 inches in diameter, and we sell these throughout the spring. And then when we get towards summer, we will actually take these and put them up into quart pots. We're not actually dividing them unless they're really, really big, but they're packed with roots, as you can probably see here. So they have to get out of these containers and into the wood pots. That's it. Oh, I know.
Emily, Pearlie, do you have something to add? I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. We go through a lot of plugs, so it's kind of a matter of efficiency, trying to get through dozens at a time, filling up these 10-count flats here for the most part.
Yeah, I love this potting table. We're going to get a view of the potting table in a moment. Really, really handy. It's just a wonderfully sturdy wooden table with a whole bag of soil dumped onto it. We'll take a look at that in a second. Let me see
Here,
here.
give a shout out to George, who's one of our handymen around here, who built that for us.
Way to go, George. All right, so let's see here. I think we'll just jump right in then. You can see this now. Read if anyone has a question along the way, and if anyone with us has a question, go ahead and type it in the chat window. Reed will see that, and then Reed can shout out at any time if there's something we need to clarify or show a little better. Maybe hold it closer to you to see. So for right now, I think we should go ahead and let Sue start and show us a couple things, and then I'll show you a couple things. Oh, I'm gonna change the camera. Go ahead and introduce it, and then I'll change the camera to the potting table.
Well, all I'm going to show you is I've got some Texas green eyes that I propagated in individual cells. Texas green eyes is the Missouri native plant of the year, so they've been very popular this year.
I'll go ahead and put it on the table view then.
Can you see
Okay,
this flat?
1 second. Oh, we have Sharon Logan. Hello, Sharon. Thanks for coming.
Can I lift these pots?
Okay, 1 second. I'm not there yet. Okay. All right, hold on now. Looks like we're good. How's the view there, Reed?
It looks great.
Awesome. All right, take it away, Sue.
Okay, so I've got this handy dandy tool that is designed to remove these seedlings from these individual cells, and you can get this online at Gardner's Supply Company. It's very, very handy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some dirt into a pot. We have a potting mix. It's not dirt. We have a potting mix.
Oh, we better show that potting mix. We'll have to show. We'll show it when we go back to a normal.
And it
view.
has microizing already in it.
Sorry, Sue, I interrupted you. Go ahead and
That's
say
okay.
that again, okay?
We have, so I'm using a potting mix that already has microizing in it. Microizing is very beneficial fungus for the roots. It helps the plants to take up water and nutrients. So we buy a potting mix that already has that mycorrhizal present. So I'm going to put some dirt in the pot, kind of make a depression in the center. I'm going to take my little tool, and I don't know if you can see this, carefully remove the seedling, and it didn't come. Go figure. That happens. Now we will take them up with my finger. He still doesn't want to come. He's got roots leading out the bottom already. So you can gently pull, and there you go, and you can see the roots. So he's got a lot of roots. So I'm going to make a hole in the center of my potting mix and slide those roots down in there so I can get them down into the pot as far as I can. And then I'm going to hold the little seedling upright and continue to fill up the pot with the potting mix. And we gently press it down. You don't want to bury the seedling. You want to leave it a little bit high in the pot. And then we will water that in. The dirt will settle, and he'll be ready to start growing.
All right. All right. We'll let him go by. And then. Okay. All right. So, Sue, will you do another one of those? And then we'll do one tilting this way so people can really see how deep you're going with that hole and how you're handling those roots. And I'll help you hold it.
I'm just going to make a little depression in the center. Depends on the depth of the hole depends on plant roots. So when Emily shows you the commercial plugs, we go pretty deep with those. And I'm getting a little resistance.
Oh yeah, it's got a long taproot. Oh yeah.
I like seedling. It doesn't matter that the dirt all fell away. These guys are ready to go.
Let's tilt it forward once you get it in there and show how, yeah, so that's way down in there.
Press the roots way down in there so the roots are not at the surface. And we're going to continue to fill around the little seedling. And if you need to, you can pull him up a little bit if you got him too deep. You don't want to bury the seedling. You want him to be up. And there he's ready to get watered and settled and start growing.
No, I feel like you're not packing it in too tight.
Not. I pack gently. You want to leave some air pockets in there so the roots have some room to grow. If you pack it too tight, they have trouble getting going. So we want to keep it a little bit loose. When we water them in, the dirt will settle a little bit, and they will be fine. And then we tend not to water them. They get their initial watering. They get set off to the side, and we don't water. And the reason we don't water is because we're forcing those roots to go down and seek water from the bottom, and that makes a nice strong root system.
Wow, okay, cool. That is great.
And I'm gonna see if I can still get this thing to work. It really is a handy tool. There's one. That's how it's supposed to work. It comes up with the roots. Hot. In there. This one I probably could separate if I wanted to, but I'm not going to.
Will they both be viable? At what point do you think they'll compete with each other and one will win?
No, they won't. They won't do that. They'll have enough room in this quart pot to both grow, and it'll be a nice full plant for somebody who wants to buy it at some point.
Yeah, 2 for the price of 1.
Something like that. And it's possible that they could separate it when they get home, but we don't usually recommend that. We recommend they stick the whole plant in the hole, and then as it grows, if they feel like they want to divide it down the road, they certainly can.
Okay. Oh, wow. Now, why don't you recommend people divide them to get the 2 plants spaced apart?
A lot of people
Hold on a second. Let's let that guy go by.
Sorry. Working nursery.
Yeah. Very busy nursery.
A lot of people don't know how to properly divide seedlings.
Okay.
If they do, that's fine. If they want to try it, they can. But it takes a little bit of practice to divide seedlings and do it well. So we just recommend to people that they grow. And as they grow in the ground, then certainly they can come back and divide them and dig up part of it from the ground easier than they can trying to do it divide a little seedling.
Are you going to show us how to properly divide bigger seedlings? Too? Think about it. This is dividing small seedlings. This isn't dividing big seedlings. So if you want to give us pointers, that would be great. But you can do that now, or you don't have to do that either. But it's up to you. Or you could do it after Emily goes. It's up to you.
Yeah, let me see if I can go find one that would be a good candidate.
We'll let Emily go while you're thinking about that.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with these. These are the typical size of the plugs we get in these containers, and a lot of times they come really packed with roots. So you can see how they're all kind of growing out here at the bottom. That's the state of a lot of our plugs we get in. So what I usually start, you can just break those and kind of freeze it up to be easily pulled out. So this is clustered mountain mint we're working with here. So you can see it's a really dense ball of roots. And so we'll start much the same way as what we did with the Texas Green Eyes. You fill up your container, but not quite as full because it's a much deeper set of roots. And pull out the trusty pruners here. And so usually what I'll do is kind of just gently work away, mostly along the bottom here, to loosen those roots a bit so they have kind of room to spread around in the container instead of getting too root bound around the bottom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I like to go till it seems pretty fibrous in there. Just seems to help them put roots down faster.
You freed it.
Yes, it is freed from confinement. And so then sometimes I'll spend a little bit of time cleaning them up just so they look a little nice as they go into the container.
Hold on a second. Let him go by.
Yeah. So good measurement here. I try to align the top of the plug fairly close to the top of the container so it's not sinking in too deep or sticking out too tall. And then like the other ones, you'll be filling in around the root system here, which is a little easier because you don't have quite as much space to fill with these guys. And again, packing really, really gently and lightly so that you're not pushing all those air pockets out. And sometimes what we'll do, there's two different things with some of these plugs. So sometimes they come in really long like this guy. And we find that giving some of your taller plants a little bit of a trim means they'll have less top growth that they have to worry about supporting.
Wow.
So the trim back can help them put those roots down faster after they've been watered in.
And that'll stop them from flowering, won't it?
It will. And sometimes they'll actually already be flowering, and we also pluck those flowers off. Because if they're putting more energy into producing flowers, they're not going to be focusing as much on root growth, but they typically will flower again as soon as they're ready, basically. I kind of brought an example over. So this is one I brought over. This is a 2-flowered Cynthia we potted up several weeks ago. And so like after we do the really deep soak with water, we let them dry out completely, and eventually we'll see the roots poking out the bottom of the container here. And so we'll usually check them, and you can see that they've really filled, and this was the same size as like these plugs here.
Wow.
So generally
amazing.
They root down pretty fast. Yeah. It's really awesome to see everything fill in and come to its full beauty. So that's the commercial plugs, and I'll let Sue hop back in here.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, I did find this is again a commercially propagated plug.
What kind of plug is that?
This is monkey flower,
Ah.
Mimula springens. And
Wow,
yeah, they come packed full of roots. Soil knife, very handy. Get a good one, it'll last forever. And you want a fairly good sharp cut. You don't want to be.
Pull that forward a little bit so we may not be able to see. There we go. If you put it down there, yeah, now we can really see it.
So I'm going to divide him right in the center here. I'm going to take my soil knife and I'm going to make as sharp a cut as I can. And now I have two plants, each with a good set of roots.
Wow.
And we will do the same thing we did with the other plug, which is loosen the roots a little bit. And I'm sure, I mean, sometimes with these we just have to lay them in and then fill.
Oh yeah.
Because the roots go all the way down.
Oh wow. That's so much easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought you were going to be wrestling with two root balls.
There are occasions, and depending on what we're potting up, that we have to cut the pot away from the plant.
Mm-hmm.
So that does happen occasionally.
So I had an experience last summer. I bought you never think of buying this because they're so common, but I bought a black-eyed Susan and it was really going to town. It was in a 1-gallon container, but it was 2 feet tall and flowering. And I had to give it a little bit of rough handling on the roots when I was planting it in my pollinator garden, and it did not really survive.
Really?
I thought it was a hardy plant, but it turned out that I was too rough with it. So can you think of some species that can't handle the rough handling?
I would say it's not so much the species as it is what the roots look like. If you have a plant where the roots are, I mean, something like this, where the roots are coming out the bottom, we know we can be rough with this kind of plant. But if we have a plant that we bring it out and maybe the roots are just barely halfway down the pot, we know we have to be a little more careful.
Okay.
Because they're going to tend to fall apart a lot faster. So
okay.
we try to get the whole thing out at once and plant it as a clump, but sometimes the dirt falls away and you just have to be a little gentle.
Okay, so earlier means more gentle. When the plant is in an earlier stage,
I would say so,
gentle.
yes.
Okay. All right. Are you going to do another demo or should I go ahead and get what I've got going?
Go ahead and get what you got.
Okay, great. Do you have any concerns about my plants being, now I did oven bake my soil, so we should be good. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start with.
We don't do that only because we've just never found the need to have to do that.
We may talk about that in a moment. We're talking about special soil to avoid bringing in invasive species. There is an invasive worm, the jumping worm, and you can get it in bags of soil. I don't know where, but here at Greenscape Gardens, they sell soil that is guaranteed to be free of it.
We sell potting mix.
Yeah.
So it's not dirt dug up from the ground.
And it's not mulch, but
right.
Yeah.
It's a potting mix that's been formulated, so there's no worry about invasive.
I'm gonna bring another flat. Talk more about this soil because that's not the only cool thing about this soil.
Well, this is a very light, fluffy potting mix. Should be light and fluffy, so it should not be thick and heavy, because you want to give the plants rooms to grow. And then the company that we get this from adds mycorrhizae to it. Again, mycorrhizae is a fungus that attaches to the roots to help the plants take up water and nutrients. So this is very light. There's usually not a lot of debris in it. There's a little sometimes you can see me pick out pieces, but generally it's good to use just the way it comes out of the bag.
Right. Let me show you what I did. Now we've been working together since January talking about growing native plants from seeds. One of the ones I demonstrated was Ratibida pinnata. That's our gray-headed coneflower, yellow coneflower. We did this on the 22nd of January, and my pen hasn't washed off of this tag, which I'm very surprised. Other tags are starting to wash off. I may like to show you at this time that a white paint pen, just a moment. A white paint pen can be very handy, I think. I've tried a white paint pen, just writing that on these black surfaces of the pots themselves, that can be helpful. Okay, what else? So you see, I tried not to be too dense with my gray-headed coneflower here, and these, they're not too crowded up front, but then you get over here, not only are they a little too dense over here, but then I've got something else growing in them. You might know what this is.
Weedy wild geranium.
All right, weedy wild geranium. Not your regular wild geranium.
Not the nice wild geranium. No,
Yep.
It's a weedier species.
The ugly one. They have come up as volunteers. I don't know how that happened. Well, I do.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yes. Okay. All right. So that's one issue I've got here. I've got to get these guys out of there and divide those up. Now here are some world milkweed. And they are extremely dense. These were last year's seedlings. There are several of them in here. We divided a lot of them up last year and had great luck with it, actually. We did some seriously rough handling. We used a fork inside here and kind of dug these root systems apart with forks so that we were able to separate them out. So this is how they look after going through the winter like this. This flat came through the winter. And this division that we did came through the winter. I did bring these in. We had a what do you call it, polar vortex there for 1 week where it got down below zero a couple nights there. I brought them into my garage, unheated garage. They did freeze in the garage, but they didn't get so cold that they died. So nothing died this winter because I was able to bring it all into my garage. Not everything. Yeah, here's another weed. And in fact, I don't think this is all world milkweed. I think some of this, I may have, yeah, there's other stuff. There's a willow leaf goldenrod. I got confused and I ended up putting some condensing this and putting willow leaf goldenrod. There may be some mountain mint lurking in here. So that's a problem I've created. I'm gonna have to let them grow a little longer and figure out exactly what's what.
And on that note, it is very important that you label what you're planting, so that you know what it is later. Because trust me, these little things all look alike, and it's very, very hard to tell them apart.
Yeah, especially in the winter and early spring when they're just getting started. Okay, so here is two different kinds of drawing a blank. What am I? Bird vein. Two different kinds of vervain. We've got Ori vervain, and we also have blue vervain. Yes. Ori vervain did really well. Here, hold on, we'll let this guy go by. Yeah, we'll pull it out. I usually have to free them from the bottom. Okay. I want to say, why did this come up like this and this come up like this? Well, Henry Eilers gave me these seeds, and I had a feeling, I thought they had been around a while. I didn't realize they were really fresh. And so I seeded a little heavily because I didn't know my germination was going to be so good. And lo and behold, there's easily 100 plants in every one of these cells. So what do you do in that case? These wonderfully long cells here, 5 inches in these flats. I love them. They've got a hole on the bottom that will eat up your finger if you put your finger in there, even your pinky. But I'm gonna do that anyways because I forgot to bring a stick. So I'm gonna loosen this up. There we go. And I'm just gonna try to loosely grab all the plants with my fingers. And now I've got it out. Look, the roots are already circling around the bottom. And whoo, that's gonna be a lot to deal with. 100 seedlings. I mean, 25. We've got 2,500 seedlings here. We could get several pollinator gardens going in several cities. What were you gonna say, Sue?
Well, I was going to say I would start with this by taking my soil knife, and dividing it here.
Show us what you would do here. This is the Sue way.
Sue is not baby plants either. Sue is kind of rough on them. Oh, I'm apart though.
It's like a big juicy steak.
Now we want to be a little more careful over here. This half came out pretty intact. So now, if you're comfortable with it, you could grow them this way in a pot and let them get bigger, and then divide them again. Are we going to keep going here? So you just want to make sure that every seedling you get has some roots. That's the very important part. So at this point, and a fork would work great here, but I don't have a fork. This is garden snips, use these for everything.
Oh wow, yeah.
So you're gently going to pull out.
Oh yeah,
seedling that we could put in a pot, and yeah.
Look at those roots. Tiny, maybe you can see that. I don't know. They will dry out very fast.
Yes, but they all have roots, and that's what's important. They all have a good root. Root.
Yeah. These are some real long ones. They come all the way down to here. Yeah, so we had a seedling division party last year with one of our other partners, the 6 Mile Museum in Granite City. And for those of us who were, some people like to work very methodically, and they wanted to divide out all the seedlings first and then pot them up one by one. But unfortunately, these roots can dry out so fast. So it's good to leave several in the clump and only work with a few at a time to keep them getting in the soil quickly so they don't sit out
and
for too long.
Something this size, it would reuse these little tops.
Yeah.
And I would let him grow in here a little bit more until he gets bigger yet again, maybe doubles in size, and then I would take him out of there and divide him again if needed to go into quart pots.
Awesome. Cool. All right, I'm gonna show you another way. So I'm gonna go ahead. Let me throw some soil in this flat. So one thing about me, I'm always working with crack of dawn time. I get up this time of year, I get up at the crack of dawn, and it's like I've got 2 hours before I have to get ready for work. So what am I gonna do today? What plants am I going to deal with today? So I love these flats, and I like one thing I love about them is that there's 25 together, and I can have 25 plants that I carry around at once. I do also love this size of container, and yes, they of course do make a tray to hold them all. But for me at home, I don't have everything that a garden center has. So for me starting out, this kind of thing is really working out for me. All right, let me show you. So I do this first, and this is kind of the dumb way to do it, because now I have these cells all filled and I have to make room for them. It's not so bad when you're doing one plant at a time. Oh yeah, well, I was gonna use my fingers. So I'm very carefully just kind of pulling them apart a little bit. If I want to make these up, and it's very good to make up just a couple plants in there, keep it light. So I was really careful taking them apart. I didn't tear up a lot of roots. This one's got a good inch, so I can do just one by itself if I want to. And I'm gonna love how that grows because I'm gonna end up taking this flat through the winter. And next year it's gonna be a much bigger plant. Like I said, when it gets, down into like 12-degree days in the winter and 0 at night, these are coming in. I killed the roots on this one, so I'll get rid of that one. You want the root to be at least as long as the plant, if not twice as long. And you would love the roots to be branching out into, here I have 3 branches on the roots, and that's great.
These branches, I don't know if you can see them, but that's what the mycorrhizae attach to. So the more branches you have on your roots, the better.
Mycorrhizae fungi that help the plants grow. Great. Okay, so what else? Well, I'm in a bigger hurry now. As I told you, I woke up at the crack of dawn, and now I've got only 20 minutes left, so I'm moving fast. I'm gonna just carefully open this guy up here, and I want to try to fill as many cells as I can. So I'm gonna just spread them apart a little bit, and I want to divide these later, or I'm gonna give them to the 4-H for their garden, because they're gonna come and have a seedling division event when these get a little bigger. And then I don't have to worry about at least 100 plants that I already had to worry about, because I'll give it to the 4-H to play with. All right, so I'm taking the soil out that I put in there, and I'm just using the cell to stretch out a line of these guys, tuck in some soil right there in the corners. Okay, and I want to make sure that they're down far enough that the roots aren't sitting up above, because once this gets water, when my watering timer comes on, that's going to push the soil down, and if I've got my roots up too high, that's not going to be good for the plants. But I see there, the plant starts here, and that's underneath this top level of the flat. Okay, now I'm really out of time, so I'm just taking this quarter piece of this plug and I'm just stuffing it in there, and we'll hit that later. So now I've got, instead of 100 plants, I've got 25, and that'll hold out for a couple months until I can find some volunteers who want to take them and deal with them. Or they just stay in there and they compete. They compete with each other, and you may end up with a good couple, 2-3 plants if they have to stay in there like this the whole year. That was my experience this spring. What you see, this ridiculous overpopulation of seedlings. I did this last year with foxglove beard tongue, and I ended up doing this and this and this. This did great. This did great, and this did great too. It all worked.
This is actually what's going on in here. For the growers who did these, put several seeds in. They're not sure how many you're going to cover, so you get multiple stems coming up, and that's exactly what's going on.
Oh yeah,
on a larger scale.
Yeah, and it's fine. And like you said, you recommend just putting the whole thing in your pollinator garden. Don't try to divide it out.
You can if you want to, but you want good strong plants when you're planting, and so we just recommend that people just plant them like this. You can always divide later on in your garden.
All right, let's see one other plant here. We'll take it out. Here's these yellow coneflower. And I like how I didn't plant these so densely. They're going to be a lot easier to divide. And like I said, I'm still in a hurry. So I'm still carefully separating this out to see what the root system looks like. Which plants have their roots going where? I don't want to put this right in my pollinator garden. I did that last year during pollinator week, and a lot of these babies just were not ready for the big time. The ones that got divided and put into cells did great. And now those are so ready for big time this year. Now that they're 1 year old, they're going right into my prairie. And they're very scared out there. So they're much more comfortable in my pollinator garden. The big prairie is really scary. So there we go. Getting the pruners in there to they're nice and skinny. And they can help loosen things up because I want as much as I can get of these roots to come along with the plant. So there we go. That's looking better. And here we go. Yep, it's got a super long and tangled root. I don't want these to dry out, so I'm going to keep this little nest of hairy little roots, and I'm going to keep some moist soil right on top of that to keep them happy. And I'll go ahead and pluck that now. This root is 6 inches long. So I'm going to put it right in my flat. I'll get a little dirt in here. Just a little base dirt right in the bottom. And just like Emily showed you, she wants it level with the top. I go a little lower because, as time goes on, my soil tends to sink down under that watering timer every day. Thanks, Sue. I might hold the plant, here, we'll move your hand for 1 second. I like to hold the plant down a little lower and then lightly pull up as I'm getting a little more dirt in there, just very, very lightly, very gently sort of tuck in around the plant as I'm gently pulling up on the plant a little bit to help it be straight and have nice long roots all spread out in that cell. And now this plant is gonna go wild. It's gonna get really big, getting watered every day automatically. I brought it. I love this watering timer. It's been great. Been using it a year. Gotta check the batteries and make sure it'll have a battery marker letting you know that the batteries are good. This morning I put on the rain delay because it rained this morning, so I saved water. And you've got to get out there. You can't just leave it alone for weeks. You don't know if your battery could die, and also your sprinkler could get knocked. I've got cats, and those cats love to mess with everything. So I've got my seedlings. Some of them are protected under chicken wire, and those cats are sure to knock my sprinkler down. I have to figure out how to secure my sprinkler, but it's good to check your sprinkler just regularly. Because if a day goes by at a 90-degree day and these plants are cooking in the flats, it could be curtains for them. All right, so there's an example. Is the last thing. Like I said, I'm running out of time. I want to, I have these all taken apart. I need to get them in the soil because it's time to go to work. So I'm just gonna try to pry them apart a little bit, and I'm gonna go a few seedlings.
We've all talked about the depth of seedlings in the potting mix. The mantra is plant high, reach for the sky. So if you countersink those plants, they will take much longer to root and grow.
Countersink?
If you sink them, if you were to sink this down into, I'm going to show you how to do it wrong. If you were to
here, you show me, hold on 1 second. Show me what you're talking about. Okay, because I have to go to work now, so I did this real fast. I separated these out, and it's 8 o'clock, and I have a meeting, so got my soil in here. I'm gonna throw it under the watering timer, and I'm gone. All right, Sue, show me what you're talking about.
So if you were to put this plant in, now this one's already been pulled up, but if you were to just stick these guys down in there like this.
You shoved them way down in there.
I shoved them way down in
Yep.
there, and that does not give them room to grow. They need to be gently pulled up so the roots can stretch out, and then you're going to add a little more dirt on top. That's what's called countersinking. But you want the monsters plant high, reach for the sky, so you want them up a little bit. They will grow much better.
All right, let's see. I want to show one other thing. I want to show super rough handling with world milkweed. Okay. Here's this world milkweed. And I'm looking for a super dense one. This one is plenty dense right here. All right, we're gonna use pruners. And we're gonna separate them out so they can end up spaced apart and easier to totally divide out later or sunken into a pollinator garden or prairie just like this. Who wants to show? I'm good with a fork, but I didn't bring a fork. Anybody want to get in here and show your pruner skills dividing this? Emily, you were pretty good with this. I elect you, Emily.
Let's see.
I found last year when I was going to town with a fork, those world milkweed were super hardy.
Just pick a spot. Start gently moving it around in there. They tend to break apart on their own. Easily, but let's see.
Move a little closer.
Typically work with when they're this jam packed.
Yep, they're so jam packed.
Just
Dig your pruners, your sharp end into the bottom to kind of loosen up that root pack at the bottom. And then you can have better luck going in from the side and separating out.
Oh, there's grass in there.
That happens. You grow natives, it happens. Seeds fly in from other places, birds drop them.
Imposters.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember spending time on this. They are really tightly wound together. And that's why I wanted to do this example, because I was thinking when I did it last year, well, I'm just killing these. But as it turned out, the world milkweed seedlings were really hardy. And, as you can see, they're very happy right now, a year later. So they can really take a beating, some of them. Oh, yay, there's a free one ready to go.
You want to try to get decent roots on the ends of
Do you think these are good enough roots?
that one is.
Yeah, good. It's well branched out.
This one probably not. He doesn't have any little fiber splits at the end, which means there's no way for him to get microalgae and get.
What about this guy?
I think he'll be okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Inevitably, you are going to lose a couple when you do this.
Yeah.
But if you've got a plug full of 10 seedlings, you can afford to lose a couple.
All right. Okay, and I'm going to bring up another topic that I think is helpful when you get to actually planting your plants and during this stressful stage of being divided. If your plants are in the sun, they may be very stressed after this. Two things you can do is you can give them water that first day to help them through the stress, and then put them right in the shade, no direct sun. That'll help them get through the stress of rough handling. It's the same with some of these plants. Sometimes by the time you get to your pollinator garden that you're planting, you may have bought this earlier, And by the time you plant it, it's super root bound in there. Get it in the garden and the sun is beating down on it. One thing I did that was very helpful, I threw a scarf over the plant, or you could use a sheet, something very light that blocks the sun. And that helps your plant recover, just drinking up water and getting situated for the rest of that day. And by the next day, it should be fine for you to remove that scarf.
Fantastic roots.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to show this guy. He also has fantastic roots, but his second stem is growing out of the first stem, so you don't want to try to separate him away from that clump.
Oh, okay. So it's got a dead stem from last year.
He's one plant.
Oh
He's got
yeah.
a stem attached to a stem, so you don't want to try to separate that. It won't come away with any roots.
Great.
So just grow that as a plant.
Great.
There's a good little guy.
All right. I think I've shown all the plants I wanted to show. I wanted also just to throw another plant into the mix just as a show and tell. Another bunch of seedlings I had were button bush. And right now they look like a bunch of little tiny twigs in the little tiny cell, just all sticking up together. They need to be divided out. We did divide some in August last year, and this is what those button bush look like divided into a bigger pot. And I'm really happy with these button bush. Button bush have turned out to be extremely easy to grow. They're an amazing shrub for pollinators. They like wet feet. They can grow right alongside of a creek. Excellent shrub for wildlife. And shade, won't they take a little shade?
Take a little shade?
Yeah.
Really good in a rain garden.
How big they get? They can get huge.
Oh, they
really.
can get 10 to 12 feet.
Yeah, and round, wide too.
But they are prunable. So I would prune it in late November would be my pruning time if you wanted to keep the size down a little.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've covered it. So we're going to go back to the face mode of the camera, and we'll take questions then. Everybody's still here. Right. Didn't lose anyone. So Mona would probably have to go back to what she was doing. All right. Yay. That's interesting. All right, let me try one more thing. We may have to switch. We may have to do a different camera here because camera A is unhappy. It's okay. We'll go to camera B. 1 second. All right. Oh, okay. You can see me now. All right. Oh. There we go. I can. Oh, hold on. Oh, too low. That's good. A little closer. We're good. All right. So we potted up some plants. We divided some seedlings. Does anyone have any questions about any of this?
There are no questions in the chat, but feel free to come off mute and ask the question directly if you'd like to go. And if not, then I'm sure that we'll get some questions once the recording gets on YouTube.
Yeah. Great. Well, fantastic. We really appreciate you joining us today. It's has been the Homegrown Native Plants webinar series. And anyone can do this. They just want to grow. Just give them water, good soil, sun. Bring them in the winter when it gets really cold, and you will have a prairie's worth of plants in no time. Anything else you want to say or plug?
Go native.
Native. If you're in Illinois, we have some trainings for Project Wingspan coming up. So join us for that. Reed's gonna go ahead. Thank you. Here's our flyer for the volunteer training and certification events. One coming right up on May 8th. And then for Pollinator Week, we have June 19th, a training. We're having a great time. We've got 30 teams and growing in Illinois. We're going to our partnering prairies, collecting somewhere between 25 and 30 different species of native wildflowers. Last year, we collected 136 pounds of native wildflower seeds, and I think we had 28 different species collected. And all of those are going out to local pollinator habitat projects. So a lot of fun and making a big difference to pollinators. So join us. And that will conclude today's webinar. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you, Sue. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Greenscape Gardens. What a wonderful